This is my first review, and I worked hard to figure out how to make this video and get it out before Christmas, as I think this book would make the perfect Christmas gift for the right person. As an African American woman who grew up in Philadelphia and later lived in France, Barbara Chase-Riboud's I Always Knew resonated with me on a deeply personal level. If you do not know who Barbara Chase-Riboud is, she's an African American woman of West Indian ancestry who is an accomplished sculptor and writer. You may have heard of her novel, Sally Hemings. That's how I first learned about who she was. But again, she's not just a writer, she's a quite the sculptress as well. She grew up in Philadelphia, earned her architecture degree from Yale, and ended up living in France and marrying a very wealthy photographer there who worked for the Magnum Photo Agency. And, she did all of this in the 1950s, basically. So quite a pioneer as well. She didn't rest on her laurels, though, after marrying and being the wife of a wealthy man. Her many letters to her mother reveal her day to day life as an expat living in Italy and then France and traveling the world as well. And these many letters that she wrote span decades. And so the book, which is a compilation of her letters to her mother, is a rich tapestry of identity, history, and resilience, and it beautifully weaves together the complexities of the African American experience through firsthand narrative of a woman who wrote about her experience in real time. Miss Chase Riboud was born in 1939, which is actually 7 years before my mother was born. Her letters span from 1957, when she was 18 years old, to 1991. And the things that she was able to accomplish are just incredible. Talk about Black girl magic. You can just see it in, her Ebony magazine cover, I think captures it. Growing up in Philadelphia as she did, I remember as a girl some of the things she refers to in her letters, and I know what the climate was like in the late 70s and 80s. As I mentioned, I haven't finished the book yet. I'm really enjoying it, but it does span 30 years. So I am right about at the midpoint, the early 1960s, and I am enjoying it so much. So I wanted to put this review out in time in case someone might want to purchase it as a gift. I think it would make a nice Christmas gift. And I will do a follow up review when I finish the book. Um, I'll probably time that for Mother's Day because the book is certainly really about her relationship with her mother ultimately, because the letters are to her mother. And her mother's personality comes out in the book quite strongly. Even though all the letters are written to her, she doesn't actually write any of the, or have any of the letters that were written back. Uh, the French aspect of the book has been enjoyable for me as well. And you're looking now at a photo from the book the author has with James Baldwin. She met so many famous people. You'll read about all of them in the book. It was quite impressive. So that's her dancing with James Baldwin. But it really captured a lot about the African American community in France, which has a long and storied history. I lived in France first as an au pair for 3 months in 1992, where I got to see and learn a bit about the community firsthand. And then later for 3 years from 1993 to 1996, and then again for 3 years from 2007 to 2010. So I've always had this fascination for Paris and the feeling of Paris as being a second home. And although her experiences were very different from mine, there she is at the Alexander Calder's residence. Alexander Calder, whose mobiles and stabiles are in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the famous artist. I didn't have those experiences, but still, her writing about American and European culture reflected the intersectionality of identity, and it resonated with me as someone who has straddled these two worlds. And we get to see over the course of the decades the development of her sense of self through her letters. And we see also how one's sense of self is shaped by where we are. where we go, how we travel, the experiences in new environments. We see how these can really shift our perception in profound ways, as she shows us through her letters. And her letters held a mirror to my own experiences. Again, I certainly did meet many of the celebrities that she met. There she is with Jackie Kennedy Onassis, for example. Um, but I did have these transformational encounters while I was there as well. Maybe I'll talk more about that in the future. And the book is certainly a fun read. It has the feel of those 1950s and 60s movies like Three Coins and a Fountain, where an ingenue goes to Europe and finds love and herself. So I think that I Always Knew is a great gift for those who enjoy reading about the African American experiences overseas. Um, she talks again, as I mentioned, not just about France, but living in Italy, traveled to China, to Egypt. So it's just a romp across the world along with her through her letters. And it really bridges the gap between the different histories and realities of the time. And it's been inspiring to read about a Black woman who has always known her worth. And it's just a reminder that just as she always knew her worth, we always need to remember our worth, even when the world tries to obscure it. So here are just a few photos of me from Paris, my time in Paris, some of the different times I've been there in front of the Eiffel Tower. That was at a fashion show, um, which was just, well, you can see, quite incredible. Um, Shakespeare and Co., which is a expat English language bookstore where I imagine Miss Chase-Riboud has certainly been. I think probably anyone in Paris who is English speaking and enjoys books has been to Shakespeare and Company. It's pretty famous. Um, a view again by the Seine and in front of Notre Dame. So that's just a little bit of my experience in Paris. But I will end this review again with the cover of her book. Highly recommend it. Very enjoyable. And I hope you get to know more about her and her art and writing if you don't. And we'll see you, talk to you more about her book around Mother's Day and more book reviews to come.